She escaped an abusive marriage and discovered an incredible secret sat next to a Mafia boss. Samantha stared at the worn linoleum floor of the diner, each scuff a reminder of her past. This gritty New Jersey suburb was infinitely different from the sleek designs she'd once created, but it was a sanctuary where she could start over if only she could summon the courage to stop feeling like a ghost. Each day, the clatter of plates and thrum of conversations offered a strange comfort, yet she found herself trapped by lingering shadows of her old life. She poured coffee, its rich aroma mingling with the sizzling bacon, eliciting memories of family breakfasts that felt like another lifetime. In the bustling diner, she was invisible, a mere worker among a chorus of voices. Today felt different, though, as she caught sight of an older gentleman sliding into the booth next to her, a presence both strong and unsettling. Vincent. Something about him claimed attention. He radiated an authority that came with hidden stories, a resonance Samantha craved but feared. "What's the matter, kid?" he asked as she refilled his cup, his steel-gray eyes locking onto hers with an intensity that sent a shiver down her spine. "You look like you're carrying the weight of the world." That was the crux of it. It was as if he could peel back her layers, revealing the chaotic turmoil underneath. A rush of emotions surged through her: anger at her ex, disappointment in herself, a longing for freedom. She hesitated, part of her wanting to confide in him, while another part recoiled at the thought. Who was this man, and what did he know of struggle? With each word exchanged, the weight of her failure echoed louder. Was it worth it to share the darkness that surrounded her? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Yet, as days turned into weeks, Samantha found herself drawn not only to his charisma but the whispers of a hidden lineage, a collection of art left to her by a relative she didn't even know existed. It ignited a spark she thought buried, and questions took root in her mind, intertwining her past with a potential future that seemed tantalizing and dangerous. What would it mean to embrace this unexpected gift? The passion that once fueled her creativity flared to life, but soon morphed into a dark turn. She discovered that a ruthless art dealer was stalking the edges of her newfound reality, ready to exploit her unsteady grip on this hidden treasure. Would she allow herself to fight back against a system that thrives on the wounded? Or would she slip back into the shadows, succumbing to the fears that whispered incessantly in her mind? Each decision weighed heavily upon her, drawing jagged lines within her spirit. Just when she thought she had a strategy to reclaim her voice, she stumbled on a shocking truth about Vincent. His identity was more than just a mere mentor, he was intertwined with secrets that rattled her foundations. As Vincent leaned closer, his voice lowered to an almost conspiratorial whisper, Samantha's heart raced with a tempest of emotions. The diner buzzed around her, but it felt like time suspended, the stakes heightened to unbearable levels. Could she truly embrace this path toward her lineage without losing herself entirely to the chaos embedded in it? The answer hung in the air, heavy and unresolved, pressing against her chest as she prepared for one final confrontation with the mystery before her. Samantha's breath caught in her throat, a dizzying cocktail of fear and curiosity swirling in her chest. Vincent's proximity was electrifying, a dark gravity she couldn't ignore. She sensed that the revelation he carried was a defining moment, one that could unravel the carefully constructed facade she had been willing to build after escaping her past. Your family, they had skills, he said, eyes narrowing slightly, watching her for a reaction. Art is not just expression, it's a weapon. It can be used against enemies or to elevate the soul. His words ignited a flicker of recognition in her. She had spent years molding her artistic talent into a shield. Art had been the lone escape from her marriage, where colors melded and forms emerged, chaos subdued into a delicate balance. Healing through creation was a familiar narrative, but now she faced an alternate lens, art as a means of power. Power? Samantha echoed skeptically, confusion mingling with intrigue. Yes, he pressed, power. Hidden in your lineage is not just chaos, but the art of survival. Your work can mean more than just aesthetic pleasure. It can become a tool for defense or a way to assert yourself within a world that seeks to suppress. You could transform your inheritance into much more than just a collection. What do you think you're capable of? His question hung in the air, an echo demanding response. Part of her screamed that she was a waitress, merely existing in the backdrop of a diner, while another, more tenacious part, felt the yearning to rise from the ashes. You think I can just what? Become someone? She shot back, incredulity lacing her tone. I'm not a fighter. I'm simply a survivor, he interrupted. But one who can aim for more. You need to confront the fears that keep you shackled to the past. Samantha bit her lip, the pressure of Vincent's gaze unwavering. To confront her fears would mean diving back into the very chaos she had fled into, the world of betrayal, manipulation, and the ruthless art dealer poised to seize what was rightfully hers. But here was Vincent, a harbinger of secrets, offering unfamiliar hope entwined with danger. Nothing comes without risk, he continued, leaning back against the booth with an air of unnerving confidence. Each stroke of a brush can change the narrative. Use your art as your voice, reclaim your history. If you want, I can guide you toward people who can protect you. Protect her. The notion unspooled threads of anxiety. Was she ready to tread into the underbelly of an art world riddled with shadowy figures and fuel her passion with the rawness of existence? The decision lay heavy, compressing into a singularity of consequence. I don't know if I'm strong enough, she admitted, her pulse racing, the vulnerability now surfacing. Her fingers trembled as she reached for her apron, a mundane object underscoring the contrast between her current position and the path Vincent was suggesting. Vincent's dark eyes softened, yet intensity remained. Strength isn't born from ease. It's birthed in struggle. Each word resonated within her soul, a kindling ignited by both admiration and reluctance. She envisioned her dormant sketches, the visions that had once danced vividly through her mind, all carried the potential of what could emerge if she took the inherent chaos and molded it into something formidable. Yet a question loomed larger than anything: how would she stand against the art dealer who sought to take it all? With a mixture of excitement and anxiety swirling within, she finally managed, "What must I do?" As realization dawned, she felt the abrupt shift in the atmosphere, the pivots of her life aligning toward this uncharted territory. Vincent leaned in once more, whispering, "The time had come to face your history, let me show you the way." And just like that, the threshold of her new reality beckoned her forward while ominous shadows whispered warnings of betrayal yet to unfold. All she had to do was decide to step through it. Samantha took a deep breath, the air thick with possibility and a touch of fear that made her stomach churn. Vincent's proposition was more than just a call to action, it was an invitation to excavate the life she thought she had left behind, to embrace a legacy that felt as foreign as it was alluring. "What's the first step?" she asked, her voice barely rising above the chatter of the diner customers, a muted world that suddenly felt irrelevant. Vincent smiled, a glint of approval in his eyes. "First, we need to dig deeper. You must reacquaint yourself with your art, not just as a form of therapy but as an expression of your strength. We will explore your family's history in the art world. We'll research who they were, what connections they had, and how you can use that to carve your own path." Unease tinged her excitement. "What if I'm not good enough? What if I fail?" Anxiety dripped from her words like paint chasing the contours of an unfinished canvas. "Failure is the path to mastery," he replied, straightforward yet encouraging. "You've survived far worse than a bad critique or a botched exhibition. You need to internalize that truth as you step into this new realm." His words sparked a flicker of resolve within her. She had felt weak for so long, but the throbbing urge to create and confront the remnants of her past began to eclipse her doubts. She had looked at art through the lens of escape, but now, Vincent was urging her to see it as a weapon in a redefined battle, a way to assert herself against those who had undermined her for years. "I have my past to contend with, my ex-husband, and that art dealer. They're not going to let me take what's mine without a fight," Samantha said, her voice steadied by the flood of determination. Exactly, Vincent replied, leaning closer. Each piece you create will be a slice of your rebellion. You'll showcase not just artistry but your very essence. But first, we must gather intel. Sometimes it's played best from the shadows. As he spoke, Samantha's mind raced through the possibilities. She envisioned canvases covered in bold strokes, her thoughts, her frustrations, her power manifested through color and form. Could her art truly bridge the chasm between her past and her future? It won't be easy, she cautioned. Unpacking all that history will be painful. Vincent nodded. Consider it part of your transformation. You will have moments of discomfort, but each brushstroke will bring you closer to liberation. You need to let that pain fuel your passion. You can redefine your narrative, Samantha. The notion wrapped around her heart with a gripping fierceness. Could she really reclaim not just her past, but also power through art? A sense of clarity emerged from the chaos, as the silhouette of her former self began to dissolve, replaced by a woman ready to claim her truth and fight for her inheritance. What if I can't face the dealer? What if he sees me as nothing? She questioned, the doubt still lurking like shadows. Then we prepare for the confrontation. Vincent's voice resonated with a strong conviction that filled the space with weight. We'll strategize and learn the ropes of the underground art world. Knowledge is your ally. We find your family's connections, and then we leverage them to gain strength and protection. Samantha felt a stirring within her, a fusion of fear and exhilaration that dared her to embrace the journey ahead. She imagined stepping back into the art world, not just as a spectator but as a force. Filled with newfound resolve, she responded, "Okay. Let us do this." That night, after the diner closed, she sat alone in her tiny apartment, surrounded by her sketches, memories of her past colliding with future possibilities. Each paper carried the potential of her new landscape, each stroke of pencil and brush a chance to reclaim her narrative. As she began to sketch, momentum surged through her, weaving the fabric of hope from the frayed threads of her history. With each line, she felt herself stepping closer to the woman she was meant to be, but amidst the creative pulse, she couldn't shake the looming threat of the art dealer's return. How would she handle it when the moment arrived? Would she stand her ground, ready to showcase her art, and thereby her newfound voice? As the night wore on, the questions enveloped her like a shroud, leaving her poised on the brink of discovery and confrontation, ready to pursue answers that could shatter her carefully arranged world. What awaited her in the next chapter of this tumultuous journey? Samantha felt the weight of the world descend upon her as she sat amidst her scribbled sketches, each line a dull echo of her past life and a whisper of the woman she was destined to become. Vincent's confidence in her brought a fresh vigor, yet the gnawing uncertainty remained, gnashing its teeth at her resolve. She needed a plan, a foundation upon which to rebuild her shattered spirit. The following morning, she woke early, the sun filtering through her grimy window, illuminating the chaos of her workspace. There were no more excuses. She pulled on a paint-spattered shirt and set to work, determination sharpening her focus. Yes, she had to dig into her family's history, but first, she needed to tap into her own creativity. It would be her art that set the stage, the canvas waiting to adopt the hues of her emotions. Samantha gathered her supplies, brushes, paints, and a stack of blank canvases. As she prepared her palette, she recalled Vincent's words about discomfort driving forward momentum. She found herself questioning, wasn't it time to tackle the truths she had long avoided? Ripe with trepidation yet fueled by inspiration, she dipped her brush into crimson paint, feeling it swirl like her uncontained rage. Her first strokes were raw and unrefined, every brush of red translated to the anger she harbored toward her past. But it wasn't just about anger, it was an expression of liberation. The more she painted, the more she shouted back against her self-doubt. With each stroke, shadows of her past began to blur, replaced with vivid colors that pulsated with life. Her life hours melted away as she lost herself in the rhythm of her creation. By late afternoon, her first canvas had transformed into a swirl of reds and blacks, a chaotic dance that depicted both turmoil and determination. It had become a vessel for her reclaimed identity. When she finally stepped back to observe her work, a flicker of pride sparked within her, igniting a zeal she hadn't felt in years. But it was briefly eclipsed by the looming awareness of her ex-husband and the dealer. They wouldn't rest until they stripped away this new armor she was forging. "I have to find out about my family," she murmured to herself, her lips pressed into a thin line of resolve. Researching wasn't just about retrieving a legacy, it was a quest for the very truth of her existence. She grabbed a notepad and began jotting down names of family members she had to dig into, connections that went back generations. The next day, Samantha set her sights on the local library. It felt like a sanctuary amidst the chaos. Rows of books reached skyward, each a potential door into her family's past. As she combed through newspapers and archives, she uncovered snippets of history, old articles discussing her grandparents' exhibitions, their influence in the local art scene, connections to influential artists, and whispers of secrets that seemed expansive yet curiously shallow. But as she sifted through the data, a name kept surfacing: an art dealer who had been a significant contact for her family. Skepticism crept in, whispering doubts about the intentions of these connections. Was it a blessing to unearth this knowledge, or was it merely another trap laid by the value hunters lurking to exploit her vulnerability? Returning home with a small stack of photocopied articles, she felt the mixture of excitement and dread softly bobbing in her chest. Each name mentioned felt like a link to a distant past, dragging unanswered questions towards her. That evening, Samantha got lost in thought as she paced her tiny apartment. The art dealer's face flashed in her mind, a glimmer of the threat he posed looming over her newfound aspirations. What if he materialized in her life more abruptly than she anticipated? What if he sought to claim what was inexorably tied to her family's legacy? She picked up her brush, poised to paint again, but instead of colors, her thoughts consumed her. She resolved that if she had to face him, she wouldn't do so unequipped. Tomorrow would begin a new phase. She would research further, delve into networking to strengthen her position, and explore connections that could push her art and her voice into the world. Samantha's heart raced at the thought of all that lay ahead of her. She needed to make sure she was above the shadows before she stepped back into the light, but as she prepared for bed, something deep inside whispered that the confrontation with the art dealer was closer than she thought. The horizon of her future seemed to flicker ominously, setting the stage for a conflict that may not only redefine her relationship with art but also her very sanity. In the fleeting silence of the night, she wondered if she was truly ready for what was to come, or if she was conjuring a storm she wasn't prepared to weather. The next morning unfolded with a determined clarity. Samantha brewed a strong cup of coffee, the scent wrapping around her like a warm blanket. As she sipped, her mind raced through the possibilities of what lay ahead. She needed to take control of her narrative. The art dealer could easily become a pivotal point in her story, one that she must navigate skillfully and strategically. Diving back into research, she combed through forums and social media, seeking connections in the art world who might help bolster her reputation. Hell-bent on establishing a professional network, she began making lists of potential contacts. As she typed, a sense of anticipation thrummed through her. Each name was an avenue toward empowerment. Samantha dedicated the following days to hardening her resolve. She crafted emails, delicate yet firm, reaching out to local artists and community figures. She even mustered the courage to drop into a gallery opening that evening, knowing networking was more than merely exchanging information. It was about embedding herself in a sphere that would validate her artistic ambition and emerge above her past. The gallery buzzed with the sounds of mingling voices, laughter, and clinking glasses. It felt exhilarating and terrifying all at once. She donned her newest outfit, an eccentric ensemble that spoke to her unique artistic identity, a stark contrast to the muted tones she had hidden behind. Stepping inside, she felt a flicker of confidence burn brighter with each passing moment. Navigating through vibrant canvases, she introduced herself to local artists and patrons, sharing snippets of her journey. To her surprise, her story ignited interest and curiosity. Genuine connections formed, and for the first time in years, Samantha felt the tether of validation binding her to her craft. It was like drawing inspiration from a well she thought had run dry. But amid the excitement, her heart raced at the thought of the art dealer. Was he lurking in the shadows, waiting to exploit this fledgling emergence of her art? The weight of her vulnerability was still fresh on her mind. With every connection she forged, she felt she was building a fortification, yet one that needed continual reinforcement. She had to tread carefully, days blurred into nights as she helped promote emerging artists while showcasing her work through social media. Gradually, she noticed her follower count climbing. Unexpected messages poured in, offering collaborative opportunities and invitations to participate in local exhibits. Each interaction reaffirmed her belief in the renewed purpose of her artistic journey, yet, while her confidence was blooming, a gnawing voice whispered doubts. A looming confrontation with the dealer teetered at the back of her mind, intensifying as the days passed. The chilling realization formed a pit in her stomach. He could undermine everything she was building. One evening, as she prepared for another gallery event, she stumbled across an article more unsettling than any she had read before. The art dealer was tied to a series of controversial acquisitions, unearthing whispers of mob connections buried beneath his sparkling facade. Fear coiled tightly around her. What if she truly became a target? Fueled by rising tension, Samantha resolved to confront this looming threat preemptively. There had to be a way to neutralize his potential impact on her life. She spent hours gathering information, focusing her attention on any connections he might have within the local art circles. A network of allies emerged on her screen, their potential indirectly lending her robustness against his influence. That night, Samantha sat amidst her chaotic studio, sketches strewn across the floor, each a fragment of her emotional landscape. Her heart hammered as ideas roamed in her mind, whispering all the things she could do to fortify her position. As the sun dipped beneath the horizon, casting long shadows in her room, she knew that with every brush stroke, she displayed not just her art but her story. No longer would she shy away, she was ready to disrupt the patterns of fear governing her life. But just as unsettlement filled the air, a message chimed on her phone. It was Vincent, asking for a meeting. The simplicity of his request sent alarms pinging in her mind. Was it to discuss her work or another shadow she hadn't considered yet? Samantha clenched her jaw, caught between anxiety and determination. The pieces of her puzzle seemed to shift unnervingly, and she stood at the precipice of a hard decision. Tomorrow would reveal everything. Samantha woke early, her mind swirling with the implications of Vincent's message. She forced down her breakfast, her stomach churning with both anticipation and dread. Each bite felt like an act of defiance against the fear that sought to paralyze her. The day was drenched in potential, yet as she prepared for her meeting, she reminded herself that vulnerability could morph into strength if handled with purpose. She slipped into a sleek black dress that mirrored her newfound determination and sensuality, the fabric hugging her figure as if mirroring her resolve to take control of her narrative. The city outside her window pulsed with life, yet she felt isolated within her thoughts, grappling with a decision that could pivot her fledgling career. Arriving at the cafe, anxiety hushed her confidence momentarily. The intimate space was alive with murmurs and the aroma of coffee, yet every glance at the door magnified her unease. When Vincent finally entered, his presence was magnetic, effortlessly captivating everyone around him. He approached her table with an air of authority, his eyes scanning her face as if reading chapters of a complex story. "Samantha," he greeted her, extending a hand that felt both firm and predatory. She took it, and the contact electrified her senses, reminding her of the duplicity that lay beneath his polished exterior. "You've been making waves in the art scene," he said, taking a seat across from her. "It's impressive." She forced a smile, aware of the shuffle of emotions beneath her curated demeanor. Every compliment felt like a double-edged sword, drawing attention to both her accomplishments and the imminent threat he posed. "Thank you. I'm trying to forge a new path." "Good," he replied, his voice smooth but edged with something darker. "I wanted to discuss opportunities that could really elevate your career. But first, let us talk about the sketches I've seen." His words were an invitation, but they hovered as a trap. She had anticipated this conversation would be about her art, yet she sensed an undercurrent of manipulation lurking in his tone. "I appreciate your interest," Samantha said carefully, maintaining eye contact. "But I've been thinking critically about the dealers I work with, and ensuring their ethics align with my values is essential." Vincent's smile faltered, the tension thickening as silence stretched between them. In that moment, she saw the cracks in his charm, a glimmer of irritation and something far more dangerous. "I understand your hesitation," he finally replied, his voice dropping an octave. "But art is business, and sometimes the business can be messy." Every syllable dripped with implication, and Samantha's pulse quickened. She needed to be vigilant, to assert her position without revealing her fear. She took a breath, wielding her newfound confidence like a shield. "I have no intention of compromising my integrity or the reputation I'm building." His gaze hardened, studying her intently. "That's admirable, but it can also be naive. The world of art isn't as straightforward as it appears." Her thoughts raced. This was her moment. "Maybe it's not straightforward for those who thrive in murky waters, Vincent. I aim to navigate with clarity." The flicker of surprise in his eyes instilled a surge of empowerment within her. She realized this was the confrontation she had been preparing for, a way to dismantle the power he held over her. As they continued their discussion, Samantha drew strength from the network she had painstakingly cultivated. Each name and connection she had fleshed out in recent days imbued her with a sense of fortitude. The more they spoke, the clearer it became she was ready to confront the looming threat he represented. But then, as the meeting drew to a close, Vincent leaned closer, lowering his voice to almost a whisper. "You could be playing a much bigger game than you realize, Samantha. Just remember, not everyone in this world is who they seem." Alarm bells rang in her mind, a warning she couldn't ignore. Underneath his charm, she sensed the embedded menace of his implications. No longer would she be content to merely react, she had to prepare for action. Samantha left the cafe, her heart pounding yet alive with purpose. She understood that Vincent was more than just a dealer. He represented a threat that could derail everything she had worked for. The fight she had embraced was deeply personal, it extended beyond her art and into the essence of who she was becoming. As she returned home, her thoughts spun. That encounter marked not just a professional challenge but a significant turn in her personal journey. She could no longer ignore her agency, determined to gather intel on Vincent's affiliations and the network wherein he thrived. She realized she was stepping into a labyrinth of danger. There was no turning back now. She was fully entrenched in a high-stakes game. A sudden ping from her phone broke her concentration. An anonymous message flashed across the screen: "Stay vigilant. The dealer isn't just after your art. He has bigger plans." Samantha's resolve hardened. Tomorrow would be a crucial day, and she was ready to dig deeper into the shadows that loomed over her life. The danger was greater than she imagined, and she was standing at the brink of an unstoppable revelation. The early morning light filtered through Samantha's window, casting elongated shadows across her sketches that lay strewn across the table. Each stroke brought her closer to the identity she sought to define. It was an identity laden with ambition yet marked by trepidation. The weight of Vincent's words still clung to her like an oppressive fog. She needed clarity, a plan. Knowing that information was power, she began researching Vincent, his portfolio, past dealings, associates. Every keystroke brought her closer to shadowy connections that twisted through the art world like pulsing veins. She accessed professional forums and social media platforms, gathering snippets of conversations that hinted at Vincent's influence but talked also of his enemies. For every line of praise, there seemed to be two laced with contempt. The initial thrill of uncovering details soon morphed into a pressing urgency, like the feeling of being watched. She jotted down names, cross-referencing them with others. Each link reminded her of that moment in the cafe when she felt the enormity of her risk and her strength coalesce. While the threat loomed larger than she had imagined, so too did the resources at her disposal. Samantha sought connections with artists and dealers who had covered similar ground, potentially those who had faced Vincent's darkness before. She reached out to an old friend, Karen, who had a finger on the pulse of the gallery scene. Their conversation crackled with the excitement of shared secrets. "Vincent?" Karen scoffed. "He's a tricky one. The art community respects him because he knows how to play the game, but there are whispers. He's tangled in more than just art transactions." "Whispers? What do you know?" Samantha pressed, her heart racing at the implications. "The kind that don't end well for the unprepared," Karen replied, her tone tightening. "I can't say more over the phone. Let us meet tonight." As the day dragged on, anticipation seethed. Samantha mentally rehearsed questions, ready to extract as much insight from Karen as possible. It was a chance to connect the threads of her investigation, to piece together the danger Vincent posed, and to reaffirm the resolute stand she had taken. By evening, Samantha donned a smart casual outfit that embodied both professionalism and approachability. She envisioned this meeting as a turning point, a moment where she would reinforce her identity as someone not only pursuing art, but wielding power in her narrative. The cafe they chose was less intimate than the last, filled with the ambient bustle of patrons absorbed in hushed conversations. As she scanned the room, her eyes caught on another figure who seemed out of place, a man whose presence commanded the attention of those around him. He was elegantly dressed, but it was the palpable menace in his demeanor that struck her. Was he just a distant businessman, or another player in this dangerous game? Samantha shook away the notion, determined to focus on her friend. Karen arrived moments later, her expression signifying the urgency behind her words. They exchanged greetings and swiftly dove into Vincent's world and the various entanglements that haunted it. "He doesn't just operate with art, he extends into deals that tie into illicit affairs, beyond what people would imagine," Karen divulged, lowering her voice. "I've seen it affect a few artists who got too close. Their careers derailed, almost as if they were blacklisted." Samantha felt a pulse of fear entwining with the adrenaline of determination. It was one thing to fight for her integrity, it was another to recognize the deeper currents swirling around Vincent. This wasn't merely a battle for artistic visibility, it was a fight for her very sovereignty. "So what do I do?" she asked, her voice steady but charged with concern. Karen leaned in closer, her eyes piercing. "You have to be strategic. Speak with caution and tread lightly. And," she emphasized, "trust your instincts. If you feel something is off, it probably is." As Samantha absorbed this, a thought crept in. Was it not only about Vincent? Would this newfound awareness alter the landscape of her artistic expression? Back home, she reflected on Karen's words. Power in the art world could come from awareness and preparation, yet it was something she had to claim for herself. No longer was she merely a victim of her circumstances, she was ready to navigate the complexities with clarity and intention. Yet at that moment, as she sat before her sketches, doubt flickered. Could she withstand the fallout of this escalating chaos? Was she ready to confront the malevolence that awaited her? Before she could answer that, her phone chimed again, another anonymous message illuminating the screen. "Vincent has allies. Crossing him might put you in danger. Watch your back." Her heart raced, a potent mix of defiance and fear coursing through her. This was spiraling beyond her ambitions, this was survival now. As she closed her eyes, envisioning the path ahead, a path lined with both peril and possibility, she recognized that she stood on the cusp of something far greater than she had ever anticipated. Tomorrow would bring a choice that could either solidify her ambition or plunge her further into darkness. The stakes had risen, and she was ready to confront them head-on. But would she escape unscathed, or would the price of her pursuit be too high? Samantha woke the next morning enveloped in shadows of the night before. The threats encircled her like hungry wolves, clamoring for her to make a misstep. Clarity eluded her as she sat, coffee growing cold in her hands, caught between ambition and fear. Could she really expose Vincent, or was this journey destined to unravel her? Drawing a breath, she pushed aside the gnawing uncertainties and seized control of her day. A strategy was necessary, a path carved through the treacherous landscape of deceit that characterized the art world. She needed information not just about Vincent, but the network that both supported and feared him. Her first stop was the local gallery scene, where undercurrents often spoke louder than exhibitions. While she hadn't previously considered attending art openings, the night before had illuminated their importance. They could be fertile grounds for gathering whispers, insight, and perhaps allies. With a deep inhale, Samantha pulled her thick, leather portfolio from underneath her work table. Today, she wouldn't just showcase her art, she would begin crafting her narrative amongst potential associates. At the gallery, she navigated the crowd, her heart adjusting to the rhythm of the clinking glasses and the low murmur of artistic critique. Each face was a potential ally, an artist like herself, struggling to make sense of the murky waters. As she mingled, she engaged in conversations, subtly leading to topics surrounding Vincent. Did he leave ripples in their lives? Did they recognize the tendrils of his influence? One artist, Mia, a bold figure known for her audacious installations, leaned closer, speaking in whispered tones. Vincent runs with a powerful crowd. You need to be cautious. The price of knowledge can be steep, she advised, her eyes darting around as if assessing invisible threats. Do you think I'm in danger? Samantha pressed. Mia paused, weighing her words. Danger? Maybe. But knowledge is also protection. Just keep your wits about you. Her reticence spoke volumes, suggesting a broader fear that wrapped around Vincent's reach. Samantha couldn't help but wonder how Mia had navigated those waters herself. As the evening unfolded, Samantha's sketchbook became her lifeline. Rather than shy away from the chaos around her, she began capturing snapshots of the art and the environment, her pencil dancing like a truth seeker across the page. Each stroke was a momentary respite from the tension gripping her mind. She was forging her own sense of clarity through art, centered and present, inching toward the elusive identity she yearned for. Suddenly, she felt a presence beside her, Vincent's associate, the man whose menacing aura she had noticed the previous night. This close proximity felt electric, pressing her heart against her ribcage, suspending her thoughts. Your work intrigues me, he declared, his voice carrying the weight of authority but lacking warmth. In that instant, adrenaline surged. Did he sense her intentions beneath the surface? Was he here to intimidate or entice? She steadied herself, the resolve from earlier returning. Art reflects the narratives we live. I'm merely a channel for voices that must be heard. Clever, he replied, a smirk breaking the veneer. But be careful of who's watching those narratives unfold. His gaze held an unspoken warning, turning her own bravado inwards. As Samantha excused herself, the encounter left a chilling urgency lodged deep in her chest. She hadn't set out to become part of Vincent's cadre, yet she could feel the cohesive force of his network tightening around her. Back at her apartment, she pulled out the sketches, her world swirling around, uncertain yet charged. This was the crux of her evolution. Could she bend these currents to her will, or would they consume her? A loud knock broke her concentration, reverberating against her thoughts. Heart pounding, she opened the door and stood face to face with Karen, her expression alert, eyes wide. Sam, we need to talk. Now. It's about Vincent and something I've discovered, she said, urgency crackling in her tone. The stakes were higher than she had ever anticipated, and the moment for confrontation was upon her. The darkness was shifting, and she needed to decide whether to dance with it or fight back. As Karen stepped inside, Samantha felt a shiver of anticipation. This could change everything, and it was a chance to redefine her path. What new truths would emerge from their conversation, and how would they illuminate her growing journey against Vincent's intricate web? Samantha closed the door behind Karen, her senses buzzing with a cocktail of unease and anticipation. The tension hung in the air, palpable, thickening each breath she took. She gestured toward the worn couch, an invitation that felt more like a plea for clarity. What do you mean, something I've discovered? Samantha asked, her voice steady but tinged with urgency. Karen sat, her brow furrowed, eyes darting around the room before they finally locked onto Samantha's. Vincent's involved in something bigger than we thought, she said, her tone lowering conspiratorially. I've been digging through some old records and conversations. He's not just playing puppet master in the art scene. He's deeply entrenched in money laundering, using art as a front. The words landed like stones in a still pond, sending ripples of fear and resolve dancing through Samantha's mind. She had suspected the depth of Vincent's influence, but hearing it confirmed sent shivers down her spine. The stakes had escalated massively, and she was no longer battling a mere antagonist in the art world, she was unraveling a criminal web. "Do you have proof?" Samantha pressed, her thoughts racing. She needed to muster the courage to transform the chaos brewing in her mind into something actionable. "I can't show you everything right now," Karen replied, leaning in closer, whispering as if the walls themselves had ears. "But I have contacts, people who know things. If we get to them, we might piece this whole puzzle together." Samantha felt the gravity of the decision looming. Could she wade deeper into this dark pool? With her artistic vision slowly crystallizing into something powerful, would it be enough to keep her safe? "Do you think your contacts would be willing to share what they know?" she inquired, her own voice cracking slightly, revealing the weight of her apprehensions. At that moment, she considered the exposure of Vincent's truth and the danger that unraveled with it. "They should be, but they're cautious. It's a dangerous game, Sam. I can introduce you to them, but trust one T come easy," Karen advised, her eyes reflecting Samantha's own trepidation. "You need to decide if you're ready to dive into this world." With every word, the reality hit her harder. This was a decisive crossroads where ambition and integrity met raw danger. A new fire ignited within her. She had fought too hard to let fear dictate her choices. She thought of her art, the narratives it represented, and how this opportunity could transform her from merely an artist into an influential voice against corruption. "Let us arrange to meet them," Samantha said resolutely, each syllable feeling like a step into uncharted territory. It was a step toward evolving her craft into a critique of a broken system. "But we have to be careful. If Vincent's people catch wind of this, we'll be cautious. I'll handle the conversations with my contacts while you prepare your defenses artistically and mentally." Karen nodded, firm in her commitment to the mission. Hours passed, morphing into a swirling concoction of strategic planning and tangible anxiety. When the conversation concluded, both women felt the weight of their intertwined fates. This was not just a battle for Samantha's career anymore, it had become a fight against a formidable adversary. As night crept in and shadows embraced the corners of her apartment, Samantha felt the tension from earlier transform into something sharper, a focused clarity. Each heartbeat resounded with the resolve to uncover the truth. But what would she face next? In the coming days, as they made connections and peeled back the layers of deception surrounding Vincent, Samantha would either rise as the artist she always aspired to be or find herself ensnared deeper in a world she had barely scratched the surface of. The allure of her own fractured identity drew her in. What unexpected dimensions of herself would she reveal as the battle unfolded? Just as she began to gather her sketches, an urgent text illuminated her screen. "They want to meet tomorrow. But be careful, someone's watching." A shudder coursed through her. The next steps would demand not just bravery, but a transformation of her very soul. Would she be prepared for the confrontation that loomed ahead? Samantha stood at the brink of her newly defined world, filled with undeniable resolve. The shadows of her past no longer overshadowed her, they had transformed into stepping stones, guiding her toward empowerment. With each brush stroke in her studio, she was reclaiming her narrative, all while preparing for the looming confrontation with Vincent. As the dawn light siphoned through the curtains, she felt a surge of energy pulse through her veins. Today was not only a meeting with Karen's contacts, it was a defining moment, a leap toward seizing control over her destiny. She knew Vincent's web of influence could reach far beyond any previous adversaries. She donned a sturdy outfit that combined both professionalism and a hint of artistic flair, the embodiment of the woman she had evolved into. Arriving at the cafe where they'd arranged to meet her new allies, the air felt electric. As she sat down, she reflected on how far she'd come. Just months ago, she found herself cloaked in the shadows of her abusive past, a mere waitress unsure of her worth. Now, with courage knitted into her very fabric, she was ready to engage on a stage larger than life itself. Her companions arrived, two individuals, one an astute gallery owner, Max, and the other an astute art collector, Lena. The conversation began instinctively, as they exchanged pleasantries and established a rapport woven with mutual respect. Samantha's heart raced with excitement, but she grounded herself, facilitating the dialogue that could illuminate Vincent's dubious dealings. "Can you speak to the rumors surrounding Vincent?" she asked, her tone steady. She held their gaze while gathering strength from the moment. I believe there is more going on than meets the eye. Max leaned forward, his expression shifted into something grave. He weaves quite a compelling narrative, doesn't he? But the threads of power are tangled in illegality, both dangerously creative and highly controversial, he said with an intensity that echoed within her. Lena nodded in agreement, adding, his name appears in several circles tied to art theft and money laundering. If you cross him, you'll need allies, and it sounds like you're already building bridges. Samantha felt exhilarated, the weight of uncertainty lifting as insights flooded her consciousness. They were allies now, invested in each other's quests for both artistic integrity and justice. With each shared story of Vincent's ascendance marred by deceit, Samantha felt not just solidarity, but the pulse of her empowerment growing stronger. It was no longer about what might happen but about the actions she would take to reshape her identity in alignment with her values. She discussed her impending exhibition, aware now that it would serve as a beacon of her strength and revelation art manifesting her reclaimed narrative and resilience. As they continued strategizing, Samantha's determination solidified. Each conversation was a brush stroke on a growing canvas of collaboration. The network she was forging sprang forth with connections that promised protection against Vincent's shrouded influences. She started drafting ideas for her upcoming exhibition, contemplating themes of survival, transformation, and empowerment. Her art would be a testament to the journey she had undertaken. In the days following their meeting, Samantha poured her heart and soul into her work, vibrant colors bursting forth from her brushes, weaving together a tapestry of her lived experience, each piece encompassing her journey of escape and rebirth. This was more than just art, it was her legacy, a weapon to assert her standing within the tumultuous art scene. A week later, the opening night of her exhibition arrived, and the gallery buzzed with eager anticipation. Her work, once hidden behind a veil of fear, now stood boldly, embodying resilience. Attendees filled the space, their eyes drawn to the colors and narratives that sang of overcoming darkness. For the first time, she felt the validation not only from her peers but from herself, recognizing her worth as an artist and individual. As she spotted Vincent entering the gallery with his entourage, a rush of adrenaline surged through her veins, but this time, it didn't paralyze her. Instead, the truth she had uncovered fueled her confidence. She approached him, her heart steady amidst the chaos fluttering around them. Vincent, she greeted, her voice steady. I've decided to take control of my narrative. You will no longer dictate my path. The glint in Vincent's eyes shifted, underestimating her resolve. With her artwork glimmering in the background, Samantha felt an unwavering certainty flood her. She wasn't merely facing Vincent, she was standing tall against every fear that had plagued her existence. This moment was hers. In that instant, she recognized the complete transformation she had undergone. From the scars of her past to the powerful artist who confronted her adversary, she had not just survived, she had conquered. Every ounce of doubt had been replaced by a solid confidence, a recognition of competence recognized by those who surrounded her. As she stepped away from the confrontation, she felt an overwhelming sense of personal fulfillment wash over her. A legacy had been forged through fire, Samantha had emerged victorious. She not only reclaimed her art and voice, but she had woven them into a powerful defense of herself against the past, etching an enduring accomplishment into her narrative. She was no longer a ghost, she was undeniably alive. This is the moment to show your support. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm, it makes a difference. Comment below your reactions and theories about this incredible ending. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformative journey. True fans of personal overcoming stories understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.